Greetings, everyone. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning out here in South Georgia. About to start listening to my local GPB station. Should be going into local and then federal news. Exciting that we're going to have the House vote on the reconciliation bill today. So there'll probably be a little bit of coverage on that. Maybe some, arguments for, arguments against. We'll see how NPR and GPB covered this story, but I'm excited. Don't mind the glare into the camera. It kind of happens just because of the path that I take. I'll try and make sure it's as minimized as possible, but the sun's the sun. You can't really stop that. Let's get into it.
And it will do major damage to the renewable and advanced energy sector that is driving so much of Georgia's economic development.
They're talking about it.
Republicans pushed the bill through on a 50-50 vote, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's so much battery technology being developed here in Georgia.
Georgia Congressman Barry Loudermilk's office
and it's going to get constrained if this bill passes.
The bill. GPB's Sarah Callis reports.
After narrowly passing the Senate, protesters say they want the amended bill voted down in the House. Barbara Cooley helped to organize the protest. She hopes Loudermilk will reconsider his support for the legislation that makes cuts to Medicaid and significantly raises the federal debt.
So we want Representative Loudermilk, who voted yes the first time, to look at this bill, read it carefully, look at the experts' analysis, and say, no, this is a terrible bill. I will not vote for this bill. It needs to have a lot of changes.
Loudermilk released a statement after H.R. 1 passed the House in May, saying it delivers on promises made by Trump's campaign to lower taxes and make the country safer. For GPB News, I'm Sarah Callis in Woodstock.
For more Georgia news, go to gpb.org/news.
It's going to hurt a lot of people. It's going to hurt working Americans. It's going to hurt industry here in Georgia.
$1 tax cut and spending bill is back in the House after passing the Senate.
It is all the rage right now for Raydio.
Vote by Vice President Vance. One senator who was undecided until the last minute was Alaska Republican Lisa Murkowski.
She's going to get destroyed in her next election.
She won support for rural hospitals and food and nutrition benefits in Alaska. And Murkowski says she realizes there may be problems for other Americans.
Then why'd you vote for it?
That in many parts of the country, there are Americans that are not going to be advantaged by this bill. I don't like it.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says the bill does more than just leave some Americans less advantaged.
This dangerous and extreme Republican budget will result in Americans losing their lives because of the inability to access health care coverage.
House Republicans will talk today about how they plan to debate the bill again. Several attorneys general are suing the Trump administration over sharing the personal data of Medicaid recipients with the Department of Homeland Security. NPR's Jude Jaffe-Block reports.
Federal health officials turned over sensitive data about Medicaid recipients from a handful of states to DHS. That's according to a report last month by the Associated Press. California Attorney General Rob Bonta, a Democrat, says that was illegal. The suit seeks to stop health officials from further sharing the data and to block its use for immigration enforcement. The Department of Health and Human Services says in a statement it does not comment on litigation, but last month it insisted the data sharing was legal and said it was part of a crackdown to ensure Medicaid funds are not subsidizing care for immigrants without legal status. Jude Jaffe-Block, NPR News.
Gaza's health ministry says more than 400 people have been killed by Israeli forces while trying to reach food distribution sites that opened a month ago. NPR's Aya Batrawi reports aid groups are calling for an immediate end to the distribution system backed by the U.S. and Israel.
Yeah, people are dying.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is receiving $30
They're
million
shooting people
from the Trump
trying to get
administration,
food.
says
It's
its
disgusting.
4 sites are distributing aid safely and securely to people in Gaza. But 170.
Imagine you're going to the only grocery store in your entire town, or not town, your entire city and state, and when you get there, you start getting shot at by an insane military. And we're paying for it. Americans are paying for it through our tax dollars. We should not be paying to kill innocent people.
Simply funding or backing this model, knowing the consequences, is not just irresponsible, it risks complicity.
Israel's military says it's examining incidents of shootings around the 4 sites. Aya Batrawi, NPR News, Dubai.
On Wall Street in pre-market trading, Dow futures are higher. This is NPR. The Trump administration has returned about 150 National Guard troops to the control of the California governor.
There's someone just weaving
President
and weaving.
Trump began deploying them last month to Los Angeles
I had to do
after
a little
protests
maneuver.
over federal immigration raids.
Oh,
Most
man.
protests were peaceful,
Oh, well.
but a
It'd be
curfew
like
was
that.
declared in a 1-mile zone of downtown LA after some protests turned violent. The curfew was ended after a few days. There's a partial verdict in the federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. As NPR's Isabella Gomez Sarmiento reports, the jury will keep deliberating on the most serious charge of racketeering against the music mogul.
Judge Arun Subramanian received word from jurors around 4 p.m. that they had reached a verdict on 4 counts against Combs. This includes charges for sex trafficking and transportation for prostitution. But jurors say there are some, quote, unpersuadable opinions when it comes to the racketeering charge. That one accuses Combs of running a criminal enterprise that facilitated and concealed sex crimes for 2 decades. After receiving the note, Combs' attorneys gathered around the once powerful hip-hop mogul who rubbed his eyes and looked down as they discussed the news. The judge has instructed jurors to continue deliberating in an effort to reach a verdict on the remaining charge. Isabella Gomez Sarmiento, NPR News.
Former State Department spokesman Richard Boucher has died of cancer at his Virginia home, according to his family. He was 73. Boucher served 6 secretaries of state in 3 different presidential administrations. He was famed for his mastery of facts and his calm demeanor, particularly in foreign crises. This is NPR.
That's a Unit Party rep right there.
Comes from NPR stations.
That's it kind of represents the through line that you see in a lot of executive administrations. Like whenever it comes to foreign relations, it's the same line. You just, get people that are more loud and aggressive, or people that will quietly push the evil agenda. That's the best way to call it, I think. Hurting people economically in other countries.
But how much protein do we really need? Next time, Here and Now.
Listen to Here and Now from noon to 2 right here on GPB. I'll be listening to that because I need my protein this morning. Haven't had it yet. This is Morning Edition on GPB. I'm Pamela Kirkland. Thank you for starting your morning with me and GPB. Coming up on the program, the arrest last summer of Mexico's most elusive drug lord set off a regional war, leaving more than 1,000 dead and more than 1,000 missing. NPR reports from the state of Sinaloa. We'll take you there in about 15 minutes right here on Morning Edition on GPB.
Remember, with your ongoing monthly support, you'll receive GPB Passport. This powerful donor benefit gives you access to PBS streaming on demand on any screen. Enjoy full seasons of masterpiece favorites like All Creatures Great and Small or Miss Scarlet and the Dew.
Yeah,
documentaries.
Support your local NPR station. I did.
And thanks.
I'm still waiting on my mug and shirt though. But I have so many coffee cups. I really don't need an extra, but I'll use it.
Martinez, the Senate approved President Trump's mega bill yesterday. In a few minutes, we'll hear from Maine Governor Janet Mills on how she believes it could affect residents in her state. First, we have more details on what's in the bill's latest version as it returns to the House.
Yep, they got rid of the AI block, which is good.
Border security and defense programs. Here's Senate Majority Leader John Thune after the vote.
With this legislation, we're fulfilling the mandate we were entrusted with last November and setting our country and the American people up to be safer, stronger, and more prosperous.
But it's expected to add $3.3 trillion to the U.S. budget deficit through 2034.
It's a lot of money.
The House is planning to vote today as Republicans try to get the package to the president's desk by July 4th.
NPR congressional correspondent Deirdre Walsh is here now.
I wonder who the congressional holdouts are going to be.
Finally get this thing over the finish line.
You know, it really came down to the wire. Vice President J.D. Vance had to break a tie to pass it. GOP leaders could only lose 3 votes, and they did.
I'm not pro this bill, but man, if only we didn't have, the ancients
Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski was the deciding vote.
staying in office for centuries.
makes
and then
the
dying.
2017 Trump tax cuts permanent.
You know, this wouldn't have even been an issue. There would have had to been some actual compromise in this bill.
Raised big concerns about some of the spending cuts,
compromise that could have actually helped working Americans,
and then nearly $1 trillion
instead of
to
just
Medicaid. That's the healthcare program.
People that represent the wealthy in blue states and the people that represent the wealthy that are effectively stateless. And by that I mean they're so rich that they don't need to care about where they live.
To $50 billion over 5 years.
So
they made changes for nutrition benefits targeted just to help Alaska. Plus, Murkowski got a tax break for whalers. She called the decision agonizing. She said she didn't like the bill, but said she did what she thought helped Alaskans.
I needed help, and I worked to get that every single day. And did I get everything that I wanted? Absolutely not.
All right, so the House now, Deirdre. Will this pass the House? I mean, they're aiming for what, later today?
Right. House Speaker Mike Johnson can't afford to lose more than 3 votes. He admitted last night weather is a factor. Flights have been delayed and canceled last night as members come back into D.C. for a vote expected today. Conservatives are threatening to vote no because
at least the weather's nice down here.
Adds more to the deficit. Moderates oppose the deeper Medicaid cuts. But as we've seen before, House Republicans tend to get in line behind Trump under pressure.
Okay, but they're rushing to pass this bill. Public opinion polls, though, show it's unpopular. So is this a political risk for all Republicans?
It really could be.
Yeah, there's a poll that was pushed out. It's like 64% disapproval, I think it was.
This year. But that's really a complicated
that's a lot.
Most people won't
a lot of people that don't like it.
Paychecks. But a lot of working class voters who voted for Trump could potentially lose their Medicaid coverage. The president argues that it's waste, fraud, and abuse that's being cut, but a nonpartisan scorekeeper estimated that close to 12 million people could lose their health care coverage. Democrats are already making this issue the central issue in the upcoming 2026 midterms. They say Republicans campaigned on lowering costs, but independent...
Imagine if, like, we had a real party that, instead of trying to defend people from losing health care, they fought to get more people health care. Maybe they would have some actual political success.
Who voted against the Republican tax and spending bill was Susan Collins of Maine. She says she voted no because of its, quote, harmful impacts on Medicaid. Maine's Department of Health and Human Services estimates that more than 30,000 people would lose their health care coverage and up to 4 rural hospitals could close in the first year alone. For more on the bill's impact on Maine, we are joined by the state's Governor Janet Mills. Good morning, Governor, and thanks for being on the program.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So after the Senate approved this legislation yesterday, you said this would hurt Maine residents. What are your concerns specifically?
Well, first of all, Medicaid is a serious, serious problem, the cuts to Medicaid, and it'll result in $4.5 billion in cuts to Medicaid in Maine alone over the next decade. About almost 400,000 people of our 1.4 million people in Maine right now use Medicaid for their health insurance, and that includes about 190,000 children.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of kids.
In addition, about 175,000 people rely on food stamps or SNAP for nutrition, and that includes women who are victims of domestic violence, having to leave their homes. It includes women and men in very difficult circumstances. The cost of administering the program, the SNAP program, being shifted onto the states will result in about a $60 million a year cost to the state of Maine. Now, Maine is not a wealthy state. We're a rural state. People describe this bill as beautiful. I don't see anything beautiful about it. There's nothing pretty about cutting food to hungry children. Nothing pretty about preventing people from getting to their doctor when they have a health care problem, or preventing the doctor from being paid. Nothing pretty about threatening rural hospitals or driving up the cost of energy, especially in states that rely on oil for heat now.
Just to make a quick point, because this is something I'm very passionate about, we should not be spending money on building weapons to kill foreigners. We should not be using money to round up people who just want to live here in this country, and the legal framework to do so is broken. We shouldn't be using our money to just, I mean, really, we shouldn't be using the system to benefit those with all the power. We should be taking our tax dollars and we should be making these training pipelines, these real rigorous training pipelines that go beyond the limited success of the Job Corps, and do really intense training programs to get more nurses, get more doctors, to get people craft skills, essentially, craftsman skills for building, for constructing new hospitals, new infrastructure buildings. But like that's what we should be putting our money to, is developing training programs, training pipelines for doctors, training pipelines for nurses, training pipelines for electricians and engineers, because that's going to build a stronger nation, not, building more bombs or developing a new tank that's just going to sit there for years and then will eventually sell to some European nation when they get invaded by a despot. So that is not where we should be putting our tax dollars towards. We should not be putting our tax dollars towards making the world a more dangerous place. We should be putting it towards making a safer and healthier place. All right.
Really quickly before I let you
We're
go,
about to hit the
this
limit
legislation is
because
going to the House. Do you have anything
my
you would say to Republican
I'll let
House
them
members
finish
who take
first.
this up?
Think carefully. What is the emergency about passing this bill? What is the emergency? Take your time, read all 970 pages, and think about the cost to your states. Every child who's going hungry, every person who needs health care to save their lives, to maintain their families. Go ahead.
That's Maine Governor Janet Mills. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna wrap it there for the day. My commute near the end of it, well, not really the end of it, I'm like halfway. I get to the outer edge of my radio station's range, so it's gonna start sounding real crackly from here out. But thank you guys for listening as I get blinded driving into the sunshine. It's going to be a crazy day today. We'll see what happens in the House. I'm real interested. I'm sure all of the news is going to be going crazy. So thank you again for listening. I'll catch y'all tomorrow.